G'day everyone, it's Zach here from Young Lions. I am having a chat to Kris. We've got a epic 10-year anniversary burn tour, which we're heading out on the road around Australia, starting in September on the 22nd in Brisbane, and heading to every city after that. So we're really stoked to be out there.
Beautiful. Zach, thanks for joining us today, brother.
Mate, absolute pleasure as always.
As you say, Young Lions hit the road this September for your Burn anniversary tour, starting in Brisbane on September 22nd and going through Sydney and Melbourne before finishing in Adelaide on September 29th. So not that far off now, bro. Is everything all finished and ready to go?
Yeah, we're really getting into the production rehearsals now. We're getting pretty stoked to get out there. It's really nice to revisit songs. Obviously, I've been doing a tour at the moment with my other band, with Dream On Dreamer, for the 10-year anniversary for Loveless, which has been really, really good. And so it's been getting me really excited to get out there to do the same thing with Young Lions. You know, everyone really resonates with the music that they've listened to for 10 years, and they've had a long time to learn the lyrics. So we're getting stoked on some big sing-alongs, and there's so many epic bands coming on tour with us. We've got Shangri-La, Chasing Ghosts, and Tapestry. So it's a really all-star lineup.
Yeah, so as you say, man, the tour is celebrating the band's 10-year anniversary. So what sorts of special birthday treats have you got in store for us?
Well, I think a lot of it, I mean, we're looking to bring all the hot songs out for everyone and play the full album. So we're going to be bringing up some guests to play with us as well, which I'll, I won't spill the beans on them yet, but we've got plenty of amazing people coming to check the show out and to help make it a special moment. And I think we really just tried to put a lot of effort into the lineup this time around and put on like 4 bands that are really going to have a great time with everyone and really impress everyone from start to finish. So I think anyone who's coming to this show is really going to see just that, an epic show from beginning to end. So that's what you want, you know, from a ticket these days. For me, I'm really enjoying going from the start to finish of shows. So we wanted to put together and curate a really great night from start to finish.
And you mentioned that you are playing your debut album, Burn, in full, mate. Like, is that a difficult thing to do? Like, when you made the album, I couldn't imagine you would have sort of planned to play the whole lot one day. So is there certain things in there that are difficult to replicate?
I mean, it definitely is. It's a funny experience because you start learning them again, and I don't know. For me, my voice has changed a lot since then as well. I've obviously had a lot of experience, but then when you listen back, there's a certain angst and execution in a lot of the stuff we were doing that we might not necessarily do the same way anymore, or we haven't done in the last few years. So yeah, we're like rediscovering that teen angst that we had, or that coming of age kind of angst that we had for that debut album. And then it's also a real pinch. You got to give yourself a big pinch thinking back that it's been 10 years since those moments happened. So I think I wouldn't say it's been difficult per se, but we've definitely, you know, we're having to rediscover parts of ourselves as musicians that we might have left behind a little bit. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
And so take us back 10 years, mate, to 2013, where it all started for Young Lions. Like, what was your early vision for the band, and how has it changed since?
Well, it's kind of crazy the way it all came to part with that album, because the album was actually recorded in totality musically before I even got involved with the group. It was called a different name at the time. It was called Amber Rain. But they'd recorded this album. The singer at the time, he just wasn't, there was some internal conflict in the band. And he didn't quite gel with what was happening. Nothing really worked. So the producer and an old manager of mine from my first band reached out to me and just said, look, I know you've been in a pretty jaded spot with music and didn't ever really want to do it again, because that's definitely where I was. And they reached out and they said, look, we've just got this album that we think would be really great for your voice. If you want a guest vocal or something like that, let us know. And I put off listening to it for 1 or 2 weeks. I remember away home on the bus after working a big long shift, I just chucked this album on in full in my headphones. And it just felt like I had been writing in my diary like all the time, all these lyrics, and they just fit directly in like a jigsaw puzzle piece. Like the album, like lyrically and melody wise, like completely fell into place. At least 8 of the songs within a week. And then I went in and met the dudes for the first time at Via Studios in Bowen Hills, and walked into this room totally cold. Had never met any of the guys, and remember doing 6 of the songs back to back, and they'd never heard any of it either. So we were in this tiny room, and we instantly knew. We were like, "Oh my god!" Like Gravedigger, Runner in the Fighter, Before the Storm, all just happened in this moment. So all these songs that have kept us going, and we've had fans for 10 years that have just, followed us around and come to every show, have come from those moments, which is pretty serendipitous. I'm still blown away to think about it, really. So we didn't have a crazy plan then, but I think the band's just made its own way. We've been just super stoked with the whole journey, really. And yeah, I didn't really know where it was going to go, but we just kept going.
So let me get that right. So this album was written before you joined the band, but then you re-sung the vocals for the album.
Yeah. So musically, a lot of it had the bare bones. So like I was a pretty proficient musician and been in other bands before, but these guys had the bare bones of the songs, but there was no lyrics, no vocal melodies that had worked from previous singers. So that was just sitting there, and they didn't know whether it was going to keep going. And then I just jumped on and did all the vocals in Sydney with Sunny True Love at a studio there just in Gosford, and went down with the bass player, Morgan. And, we'd never really spent time together, but it all happened in like a week. And then we added little bits. I played some more guitar and things, and we changed little edits and like added an extra chorus here and there. But really, it was like my diary just being slotted straight into this piece that had already been written by the other 4 dudes.
So cool. So of course, everyone's happy with an album when they finish it and bring it out. But back then, when you released Burn, mate, like, were you that stoked with it that like there was any possibility that 10 years later you would be revisiting it and playing it in its entirety?
I honestly don't think so. I think that album gave us the confidence to feel that way now, like, and seeing what it's done now. But back then, I vividly remember not us just knowing that it had something special about it. But there's a lot of music that you feel that way about. And I think, yeah, you can't get too entrapped on the fact of whether it's going to do really well or not. And I think Rick Rubin, like the producer who I look up to a lot, he says it, if you're that into it, then that's all that matters, which is easier said than done. But if as an artist, you really, really feel it, and you feel that it's words from the heart or music from the heart, then you've just got to go for it. And I remember there were shows earlier in those early Burn days that have still surpassed any of the shows we've done now. And that's not with any malice or anything. It's just, it was an incredible time of putting that out. And I remember playing Destroyer Line shows where there was like a 500 person, like a cap, and we had sold 17 tickets in Brisbane. And I was like, oh, look, it's not going to be that great a night kind of thing. And I went to a friend's party because there was no one at the opening band, no one at the second band. We were fourth. I went for an hour and then came back, and I couldn't get into the venue because it was that packed out. And that's something I'll never forget. And that definitely gave us a lot of confidence to keep up the good fight, and keep going.
You mentioned your live shows, mate. Like, looking back over the last decade, like, how has your live show refined or changed from then to now?
I think, well, we think a lot about it, a lot more about it, I think. And I don't know whether we mindfully, like, whether all of us would say that or whether we realize that. But back in the day, it was like, there was a lot of emphasis on having as many beers as possible. And having as many beers as possible at practice too, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But for us back then, we were young. We didn't have kids. We didn't have, we didn't have homes and mortgages and all these things. And so that, I guess that changes for good, for better or worse. It changes the way you feel about it. And we've made the decision in the last few years to really treat it as something that we want to grow and grow sustainably. So and we've all changed our habits a bunch, like for positive, I think. So it's not that we don't love having a few beers at every show and everything, but there's a definite definite refinement, to use your word there, that we've really enjoyed, like building shows now and planning them out and planning a set list that's really going to bring a lot of joy to people, and looking at our Spotify like stats to be like, you know, who's listening to what and what do they want to hear, because we really want to give the fans what they want. And every time we play a show now, like, yeah, we really, as small as it'll be, or like the last album tour we just went on just recently last month for our new album, Make a Rainbow and Put It in the Sky. We went out on that one really prepared, and even if the venues were smaller, like that 200 cap, like it was in Sydney, it was still packed, and the vibe was so high that we just loved it so much. And so I think our preparation has just changed a lot. We think about it a lot. We love our gear now, and like love making it just sound powerful and give someone a night to remember when they come see the Young Lions show.
You mentioned your latest album, Make a Rainbow and Put It in the Sky. Like, comparing, I know you can't really compare them, but looking back from Burn 10 years ago to Make a Rainbow and Put It in the Sky now, like, how's your music changed? Like, how's everything changed within the band in that period?
I mean, we've gained and lost members. We've still got like the 3 core members. And so a lot, you know, when a member comes and goes, they definitely bring new things to the table and new musicality and new style. So that's changed in little ways there. But I think we've always kept that Young Lions feeling across all the albums, which I'm really proud of. From Burn to Make a Rainbow, I'd say like Burn just has this almighty angst in it. Like it was I look back at the lyrics and stuff, and they're definitely some of the most angry lyrics and introspective lyrics as well. But it's funny, I wouldn't say musically, but lyrically and experience-wise, I think Make a Rainbow and Put It in the Sky and Burn are probably the most similar, because they entail a lot of breakup and burn and rebuild kind of vibe in both lyrically. The other ones in the middle, like Mr. Spaceman, was a real journey, a real existential journey, and then like it had a theme, the thematic thing to it. And then with Blue Isla, it was a really, you know, it was a love-filled album, more of a loving album kind of thing, and a softer side of us. But I think Burn and the Make a Rainbow really have this full circle to them that I don't think many people have picked up on yet, or maybe the amazing fans that come to all the shows would have. So I look forward to getting out there and talking to everyone about that.
Well, before we let you go, mate, we started doing 3 different Spotify playlists based on bands that we talk to, mate. So I want you to give me 3 of your own songs. 1 song to get the party started, 1 song, one song to save your marriage, and 1 song that could potentially end your marriage.
I think 1 song to get the party started is The Runner and the Fighter off Burn. I think that one's just like such an upbeat track. I love it. 1 song to save marriage, I think Learning of Blue Isla is a really nice one. And then 1 song that could end your marriage. I'm just trying to think of the right one for that one. The song that could maybe Take Me Home off Burn, because that one's more of like it has the Did you get that last one?
I got the song yet, no worries at all. Cool bananas. All
okay, right. Epic.
Well, thanks very much for your time today, bro. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Young Lions start their tour for Burn on September 22nd, and you can get tickets and find out more info at all the socials. But in the meantime, Ray, take care, and I might pop along to the Brisbane show and have a beer.
Absolutely, mate. It'd be great to have you there. But it'll be an absolute pleasure, man. And thank you very much for having me. See you out on tour.